Just on the way through. It's as good as you're going to look, mate.
Unreal turnout. Well done, Dragons, on getting back here. It's fantastic to see these Knights really starting to take off. And thank you, Carl, and thanks again to the guys from Gisborne Soccer Club for making the effort to come and join us tonight. I certainly think the intent, and one that was our coach, Dave Mackay, partly his brainchild, around really trying to open this club up to the broader community. The events we run are not just for Gisborne Career Club members, they're for Gisborne. And we really want to pride ourselves on that and making sure that anyone who walks through those front doors or comes across to the nets or turns up to any of our games really feels welcome and they feel like they're part of the club. And then hopefully we sign you up as members and Bert gets happy because then more money pops in the account, so happy days. We'll do a quick introduction and then I'll do the least amount of talking that I can and hopefully we can hear a lot more about Carl's story. But just a really quick summary about his career for those of you who aren't familiar with Carl. He played 124 matches with a highest score of 54 and best bowling of 5 for headers. That's someone. I've got the wrong notes, mate. That's your stats. Only 13 ducks from 87 innings, mate. So that's not a bad ratio. So Carl's represented his country 52 times at senior level, as well as representing Australia at under 17, under 20, and under 23 levels. He's played 114 matches for the Melbourne Victory when he returned there in 2014-15. With around 70 of those leading that club as captain. Won the A-League in both 2014-15 and 2017-18, as well as taking out the FFA Cup in 2015. Retired from professional football after the last season, 2018-19. Now playing down south, mate, in the NPL.
I retired from that too.
Wikipedia needs a bit of updating. Happily retired. So thanks for joining us, mate. I guess, firstly, just do you want to give us a bit of a snapshot into how your love for the game started? I was born and raised in Canberra.
Yeah, that's correct. First of all, I just want to say thank you for inviting me tonight. I think this is awesome. You guys, I was a bit overwhelmed when I came here because it's a fantastic club, and I think we've kind of lost this social aspect in sporting clubs now, and something that I'd love to bring to the Gisborne Soccer Club, a function like this. You can really feel the community love in here. I think that's important for the young boys to see growing up and for the older boys to be a part of, so thank you for having me. Going back to me now. I guess my father played soccer, my brother played soccer, so I just wanted to be like my big brother and tried to copy him and tried to be like him, and that he's 4 years older than me. So I guess that constant fight with my brother, trying to kick him, trying to be better than him. At one stage, I actually did. I overtook him. So my brother was a big part. He kept me humble, and so did my sister, by the way. My sister was a savage, so it kept me very humble, which was very important. My love for the game, it's never changed. I haven't been the type of person to watch every game, to the last minute. I love playing football. It's the only time that I completely switch off. I don't know if you guys get that, or ladies get that when you're playing any sport, but it's a time where I just don't think about anything else. I could be dying the next day, play football, and I'd completely switch off. I'm currently playing the Gisborne Soccer Club 7-a-side, mixed sevens with my wife. Big mistake. She got injured first game, so she's out for the second. That's okay. But even when I'm playing then, I'm just, I just feel great and completely free. So that's my love for the game, and I'll have that, whether I'm playing in the backyard with my kids or, if I'm playing in a grand final.
Fantastic. And a scholarship holder at the Institute of Sport down in Canberra. What was that like? I guess we've got some aspirational young cricketers here for those who are looking to get into high performance pathways. How did you shift from being a junior soccer player just in local competitions, I imagine, around Canberra and surrounds, into getting into that system? What was that like?
Yeah, look, I was extreme. Like the AIS, I don't know if anyone's familiar with AIS, but it's unbelievable. It's got the best of everything. And this was 10 years ago. No longer, sorry. Sean Wayne, 17 years ago, even longer. The best of the best, and you really taught how to be professional there. A lot of the young boys now coming through, it's all about sports science and controlling their loads. And as a young player, I was 14, training every day, Tuesday and Thursday, weights before school, and I'm not talking, you know, just some bicep curls. We were squatting as 14-year-olds with 100 kilos on the bar, so we were really pushing boundaries. If you did that with the young kids these days, you wouldn't be allowed. So that there, you were already a professional, training to be a professional, and that was the best thing that could have happened to me. It took this, because I was always hard work, I was the hardest worker, and I still am. You know, I live out in Gisborne, and I don't know how to do much out on the property, but when I'm out there, I work hard, you know, and it's just something I have in me, and it's a good quality to have. And I had that, but the AIS really taught me my body positioning, where to be at the right time. And a lot of you, maybe it's not so relevant in cricket, but in footy it is your body positioning, where to be at the right time, and that was fundamental for my career. And back then, 90% of the national team actually came through the AIS, and we have problems in soccer. I don't know if many can relate to it. They actually cancelled that program. So ever since then, there's been a big gap, and I think that's part of the problem. And local teams, not local teams, teams like Melbourne Victory haven't picked up the slack. And that's why in this next phase of my life, I'm actually working for Melbourne Victory, trying to make a change as much as I can. It's hard, but trying to make a change in those areas.
Any big names that came through as a 14, 15-year-old as part of that AIS program? Any big names that sort of have gone on to really big and better things, or have you sort of been ducks of the class?
Nah, I wasn't the best. There was a few. There was Alex Brosk, who was the Sydney captain, and we played again, I think, 4 grand finals against each other in the last 5 years. 3, sorry. Brett Holman, and we all ended up playing, 54 odd games for the Socceroos. Matty Mackay, there was many of us, and playing for your country is just awesome. And I didn't enjoy it. I actually a bit gutted that when I was younger, I didn't enjoy it as much as I should. I just thought, I'm playing for my country, it's another game. And I think that's the mentality I had to survive, because, if you think I'm playing for my country, you get too hyped up. So to keep myself grounded and focused, I just said, it's just another game. And looking back, I'm thinking, gee, I got to play in a World Cup. Like, not many people can say that. I qualified for 2 World Cups. I played in the Olympics. I captained my country, I was at under 17s level, but still captained my country. So, you look back at your career when you finished, and you just think, wow, I put myself in those situations. It's now I'm really understanding how big it was. And I remember my parents. My parents come to every game, even at Dandy City. I'm surprised they don't actually come watch me play mixed sevens. And I remember looking in their eyes, this big proud eyes, and I just think, yeah, I get that now. I'm a parent too. I have 3 young children, and I get that. So it's been amazing.
Fantastic. AC Milan fan growing up? Yeah. And you were signed by Inter?
Yeah, so I was an AC Milan. I don't know if anyone's familiar with Italian football. Don't worry, I won't hold you against it. But I have an Italian background. I played in Italy 11 years. I think I played about 400 games over there. And mate, over there is brutal, by the way. It's I like comparing this. You think about, in Australia, how many sports we have. We have, AFL, cricket, swimming, rugby union, soccer. You think about all those athletes, pick the best 20 athletes, and then put them into soccer. And that's what Europe is. That's what Italy is. They don't have any other sport. They don't want to play any other sport. There's 4 newspapers and they're all dedicated to football. TV's dominated by it. So the best athletes are playing football. And that's the difference over there. So for an Australian to go over there and play at Inter Milan, when I got there, how are you even playing? Do you know what it is? And it was a really hard adjustment for me, because I went over when I was 17. So I didn't even finish school. I encourage young children to finish school. I didn't get to finish school. I was a mature adult, so my parents, could see that I wanted to go, see that I was ready. I wasn't, immature. I was ready to go. So, and I don't think they would have had the guts to hold me back. So I went over as a 17, and what a big shock that was. So I went from being the big dog, as I like to say, to being absolutely nothing. And the coaches they're not as caring as they were in Australia. They were like, no, you need to get better and do it fast, otherwise get out. And the first year I really struggled. It was really tough, and you know, I didn't have WhatsApp, didn't have Skype. I remember we used to have to walk down to the phone booths and get these calling cards and call back, and it was really hard for me. And you know, again, my love for the game, I just sucked it up because I love the game so much. And that first year was honestly really, really tough. Came home, reset the batteries, got to spend a bit of time with mum and dad and the family, and you know, that second year I was at Inter Milan, I ended up captaining the second team. So, you know, it wasn't like I just jumped in and started captaining. I had to work my way with my hard work ethic. That's where I got to, and I ended up captaining the team. And then you think you made it, you know, you think, oh, I'm going to go to, you know, I'm at Inter Milan, I'm captaining the youth team, it's one of the biggest clubs in Italy. I couldn't find a club. I was out of contract, couldn't find a club anywhere. And I was thinking, geez, what do I have to do? So it was just a constant, and that was my career. You're always like this, and that's the thing. You know, in Australia, we've got in football, I speak about soccer. You know, it's pretty good. It's a good life. You always have somewhere to fall back to. But in Italy, it's cutthroat. And one of the clubs that I was at, so basically what happened, there's a market, and you're sold on the market like me. I'm talking, it's crazy. It's like Gisborne markets out here. Everyone's everywhere. It's crazy. And the last day of the market, I didn't get sold, so I had no club. The next day, Inter Milan ring me and say, you're going here, you're going to Spal. And I was like, what's Spal? I didn't even know what it was. And that was in the 3rd division. I get there, you know, after trying to find Spal. Spal's not even a city, it's not the city, so I was looking for Spal on the map, and there's no bloody Spal, it's Ferrara. So I ended up going to Ferrara. I get there, I'm all excited, the coach sees me, and he goes, who are you? And I was like, oh. So I had to start all over again. And you know, everyone thinks footballers, you know, have this fantastic career, money, flash cars, all the beautiful women, and all the nightclubs and partying. And for 6 months, we didn't get paid. 6 months, no money. I remember looking at my bank account and being down to my last €50. And I actually had to go to the club and say, I don't have enough money to survive. I can't pay my rent. I can't eat. So you're either going to have to pay me, or you're going to have to put me in an apartment and give me a restaurant to eat at. So that's what they ended up doing. They didn't pay me. They ended up putting me in an apartment, they paid for it with about 4 other blokes, and giving me a restaurant where I could go and eat, which was fine. I had my food, had my bed, and I had my football. I was fine. What I didn't realise at the time was that was the catalyst for my career, for the character, for the type of person I would start becoming and later become. Because it taught me that I didn't need all that. I just needed my hard work, my food, and a good bed to sleep in. And I really knuckled down. I wasn't playing at the coach didn't even want to have a bar of me. So I made a big commitment. I said, you know what, I'm just going to give this a good crack. How it goes, you know, I'm just going to say at least I gave it a good crack. And that's what I did. And by chance, not even I forced that, by chance, I think we went on a away trip, and 2 players in the starting lineup got injured in front of me. So the coach had to play me, or he had to play the spare goalkeeper. So he played me, we won, I did well, and not by chance. I was working hard to be ready, and I took my opportunity. And that's something I try to say to the young players. A lot of players work hard and don't get that opportunity. A lot of players don't work hard and wait for the opportunity. When the opportunity comes, they're not ready. So a lot of advice now in my role at Victory, I say, you have to work hard, you have to work your arse off to be ready. The opportunity may never come, but you have to keep working. When that opportunity does come, you can take it. And that's what happened with me. And it worked. And you know what, I had to repeat that another 5 or 6 times. And the player I was never a fancy player. I was never the type of player to dribble 10 players and score. I was the hard worker that, you know, everyone wanted to play with, but was the first player to be changed by the coach when something wasn't going wrong. Because, you know, I knew the players loved playing with me, so I'd work, you know, my butt off for them. I'd do absolutely everything I could. But when things weren't going well, the coach would always say, hey, Australiano, come here, get off.
So obviously you played 10 seasons in Italy. Was there another country or another big league that you wish you had the opportunity to have a crack at before you came back here to play in Australia?
Going from Italy is pretty tough. Like, Italy's a pretty good country to live in if you're a footballer. Like, I remember even being pulled over by the police for speeding. What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? And you're Australian. What are you doing in the country? Play football? Oh, yeah, for who? No worries, mate. Come on. Nothing.
Speeding tickets avoided.
A lot. Anything. If you play football, it's like you're a god over there. And it's beautiful. It's frustrating. And you know, Italy's a special country. It's a very special country. It's very obviously I'm Italian. I met my wife in Italy, who was from South Gisborne, grew up on Cabbage Tree Lane. So yeah, get your head around that. Yeah, so met her there randomly at a bar. And yeah, now look at us. Two of my daughters are born in Italy, and my son's born here. Yeah, so I didn't want to play anywhere else, and I think there comes a time where you can chase money, you can chase whatever, but sometimes you've got to think about the bigger picture. And Melbourne Victory called me to come back, and I said no. And then 6 months later, they called again, and I said, you know what? My kids are about to start school. Let's do it. And we made the best decision of my life to come back here. And apart from the bottleneck, when you come to Keeler, I really love it. But no, look, we couldn't have. I don't think I could have gone anywhere else, just because I'm a pretty relaxed kind of guy. I was done living in apartments, and I just wanted my kids to grow up properly. And I felt Melbourne in particular, Gisborne, was the right area for them to do that.
Fantastic. Unfortunately, our sport, cricket's not one that's played in the Olympics. Your sport is, and you were lucky enough to represent your country at the Olympic Games in Athens in 2004. Give us a bit of an insight into what it's like to be part of an Olympic Games. You're one of the few athletes who got the opportunity to be part of that environment, and who the biggest superstar was that you got a photo with.
Mate, I couldn't be bothered. I was never that type of person to get photos, even swap shirts. You see people swapping shirts. I never did. I couldn't be bothered. I don't know why. I just felt, what's the point? What am I going to do with all these shirts at the end of it anyway? I actually tell my daughter I'm Olympic, because she talks about the Olympics like, they're the best thing. I'm like, do you know I actually went to the Olympics? I'm Olympian. And she still doesn't believe me or that. So I show her photos, I've got her footage, and she just laughs it off like I'm making it up, but I am actually an Olympian. Look, I went to Athens, 2004. It sounds fantastic, like the Olympics, Athens, where it originated. Mate, the village was terrible. It was a disaster. We didn't have any bedding, barely a mattress. There was no restaurants to eat at. The only restaurant we could eat at was McDonald's in the village. So there we are training, at our maximum and trying to compete at almost the top level, and we'll crush a McDonald's every night. So the best thing that happened was we moved and we went to Crete, and our group games were in Crete, and that was fantastic. And like I said, the Olympics in football is kind of different. It's not the pinnacle. What's the top is the World Cup. So the World Cup is by far the biggest event in the sporting world. It's huge. And to represent your country there, even just to qualify, is something truly amazing. And that's something that not many players can say they've done, even in Italy. So I could tell the Italians, hey, did you play in a World Cup? I did, This Australiano here, he played in a World Cup, he didn't. Of course I never said that, but it's that was more important for me, and that was a dream. And you have goals, and you realise those goals, but it was always a dream of mine to play in a World Cup and represent my country. And I'm very satisfied because I achieved my dream.
And that was South Africa 2010?
South Africa 2010, yeah.
So you had likes of Swartzer, Kuehl, Lucas Neal, Scotty Chipperfield, the Bulleye bus driver, Timmy Cahill, like amazing names, and names that will be familiar with most in this room. And you got to test yourselves against some really strong teams. You had Germany in your group that year, Germany and Serbia and Ghana.
Yeah.
It's just what's that like playing in front of those crowds, which are obviously, cosmopolitan crowds that come from all over the world to come and see the biggest sporting event in the world.
Yeah, it was full on. I don't know if any of you remember, they had the Vuvuzelas.
That was the next question, yeah. Just how loud were they?
Well, you couldn't hear anything. You seriously couldn't hear each other. From this distance, be yelling at you, and you couldn't hear a thing. It was ridiculous. I don't know how they allowed them, looking back at it. That World Cup campaign was very special to me because I shouldn't have been there. The talent in front of me was unbelievable. I'm talking superstar players that were playing in the top leagues. They were the best at their club. They were captaining their club, you know. Harry Kewell, Tim Cahill, Mark Schwarzer, and then the captain Lucas Neal. Vinnie Grella, who was my idol, I was keeping him out of the team. So,
Mini Vinny, right?
Mini Vinny, Mini Vinny they used to call me. And I was terrible compared to him, he was unbelievable, but again, that desire, that hard work, you know, I really just rolled up my sleeves. And Pim Verbeek, who recently passed away, I owe a lot to him. He picked me when he shouldn't have. But he just said, you know what, Carl, you're working your ass off. And he see it, and he used to see me get stuck in the training, and you know, not that I'm an angry person, but I take things very seriously because, you know, this is my dream to play at a World Cup. So I didn't want anyone standing in my way, and you know, I was kicking people I probably shouldn't have been talking back to people I shouldn't have been talking back to. And Pim, you know, would separate it, and then after training go, well done, and tap me. You know, so I knew he was loving it, and you know, when I finally got that kind of tick of approval for the first game, it was just truly amazing. And we got smashed 4-0, so that wasn't great. But we played the champs. So Germany, we got smashed in Australia for losing 4-0 to Germany. And we had Tim Cahill was sent off. He was meant to be our fantastic leader at the time. He got sent off. And Germany went on to win the World Cup and beat Argentina in the semi-final 5-0. In Argentina, they didn't say anything about Argentina, but we're getting smashed. So that was a great campaign. We didn't qualify for 2 goals, so we could have gone to the finals for 2 goals, but those extra 2 goals against Germany ultimately killed us.
You mentioned Pim passed only a week and a bit ago now. Talk to us a little bit more about sort of the influence that you think not only he may have had on you, but on Australian football more broadly, and the legacy he's left. He's been spoken about in super high regard over the past couple of weeks, and from some very qualified people to do so. Talk to us a little bit more about what he meant to you and what you think the legacy he's going to leave for Australian football.
What he did was true, man. I think we look back, look, he was judged very harshly. The coaches, you know, I know there's probably some bidding coach, like, you know, people who want to coach him, but it's a harsh environment, coach. Everyone's ruthless. You win, you lose one game. I say, why'd you lose? You know, it's a really tough gig. And Pim was a great person, and that's what I liked about him. I think all the best coaches I have always said, first thing he said, you know, before anything, I'm a person, and that's important. So automatically he had that personal approach with players, and he was really good with you one-on-one. He'd understand the player, he'd be able to drive the individual, and he loved hard workers. So if you were clever enough, you know, he'd like good people who worked hard. So that's a good mix to have in any sport, I think. Good people who work hard. And I think once you've got that ingredient, he brought the best out of people. And he had some big players, some big personalities to deal with, and that was a struggle. And I think it showed in that World Cup campaign. But what he did, you know, it's really hard to do, and I think we'll see how hard it is now in the future, how hard it is to qualify for World Cups and how hard it is to play in World Cups. I think we were in a bit of a luxurious position back then. What I really liked about him was, so we used to play in Italy. I played on a Saturday, and we'd have a World Cup qualifier sometimes in Melbourne on a Wednesday. So I'd play in Italy on Saturday, fly to Australia, play Wednesday, and then fly out and play on the weekend again in Italy. And it's torture. Like, I don't know how I did it looking back. You know, 3 games in a week with such a big trip to Australia. But he used to just say, don't worry, just come to training. So all of us would just stay in our rooms, eat, rest, and just go to training. And that's the dream. He just understood that. A lot of coaches are like, no, you've got to come to breakfast, you've got to come to this meeting, you've got to do that. And we were zombies, basically. So he just said, he just got it. He understood people. And that's a big strength.
Fantastic. Just a couple more questions, mate, and I'll throw it open to the floor. When you returned to Melbourne 2014, 1 goal of the season that year, you've got permission to throw a bit of mayo on it, but describe to us, was it top corner? Had you actually dribbled past 6 or 7?
Oh no, just so basically, like I get a lot of stick for not being able to shoot, and there's a theory behind it. It's because I work too hard, my legs are too tight to have that explosive shot that you need. But what happened was a set piece, the corner. I don't know if any of you are familiar with it. Crosses come in, it's been cleared, and I've like spun around and hit it on the full with like a side volley action, and it's gone straight in the top corner. So it sounds great, doesn't it? It's really bad. I wish I was getting my phone out and show everyone. No. I don't have it that easy. Look,
There's one by one, we can pass it around.
I've scored 2 goals for victory, and one of them was goal of the season. So it's not my strength.
Not about, better than headers strike rate, so not bad. So the next phase of your career is starting, mate, where you're doing work with the Victory around areas of leadership, culture, welfare, working closely with young players. Can you talk to us a little bit about what that day-to-day sort of looks like for you? And
Yes. First of all, I think transition is hard. I think for everyone, transition is a hard thing to do. I started to realise at the back of my mind, what am I going to do when I finish? So together with Lee Broxham, he's one of my best mates, he's a leader at the club, we created this position. We actually wrote out job description. None of us have a university degree or even finished school, but we wrote out this job description and handed it to the club, and they ended up being identified as leadership, culture and welfare. So I do that at the club, and it's a fantastic role. I get to hang out with the boys in the change room, talk to them, and I didn't realise the importance of it, but there is a lot of issues. There is a lot of issues in the change room, and I realised that when I stopped, I didn't realise how much pressure I was under for that amount of time. You don't realise. I just got on with it, but I'm being judged constantly at training, being judged by not only my peers, by fans, by the coaches, and it's feedback, but it's direct feedback, and it takes your toll on you over a while. So you're building all this pressure to win. I came to Melbourne Victory, I had to win. If you don't win, it's a terrible season. So there's constant pressure just on my back, and since I retired, I've never slept better in my life. It's unbelievable. So now I can really sympathise with these guys, and I see them, and I can see the pressure building. I'm quite a sensitive person, so always have been. I've just always been right up in your face. If I see something's wrong, I won't let go until you tell me. And I like listening to people. So this job is kind of perfect for me because I can actually help people by just being there and talking to them and seeing the pressure build. I can actually diffuse situations before they become too critical. And I've done my mental health first aid. That's about the only study I've done. I'm going to go back into studying next year to get to later progress onto my own masters in sports business, because I think a lot of people naturally in sport progress to coaching. It's easy, but I think a lot of us should look at getting into the admin side as well, because doing things like this, events like this in local clubs, getting right back to the core of it with the passion. I think sport's been made into a business and there's not enough passion there, so that's what I want to bring back.
So you got a question for Carl?
I'll talk to you off. It's okay if there's not. It's all right.
Carl, did you always know that you were going to be a professional? And if you didn't, when was that? What was that moment when you went, actually, I think I can?
Oh, geez. I guess when I signed my first contract, I thought, you know what, I'm in the big leagues. It's into the line. But what I didn't know is that it was the start of the hardest part of the process. And that's probably why I did struggle back then. That's actually a really good question. That's probably why I did struggle back then, because I thought I made it. Once I got there, it was just the beginning. And not only did I have to show that I've made it every year, every training session, every week, I had to get better and improve to survive. So that was a big challenge, and I think a lot of players that do just say, I've made it, I'm done, I'm satisfied, that's probably a time to walk away.
other question?